You're listening to Bold Hearts, Big Moves, the show for female entrepreneurs who want it all: a thriving business, deep self love, and fulfilling relationships. I'm Erin Anderson, and each week we will dive into how to set stronger boundaries, make empowered choices, and show up in life and business with boldness, authenticity, and heart. Because let's be real, the money you make is directly related to the love that you have for yourself and the strength of your relationships. So if you're ready to lead with love and make those big moves with those bold hearts, let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bold Hearts, Big Moves. We have with us Christian Elliot today. Now, I've had a couple of really amazing health coaches on this show because the thing is I truly believe that, and I know personally that health is one of the biggest things that can get us to our financial goals, and they're also a big boundary thing. And, in my own personal journey, and Christian and I have been sitting here chatting back and forth about it just a little bit before we hit record, my own personal journey with health, I'm having to figure out things and I'm having to stick to certain protocols and things like that right now for my own health, for my own peace of mind, so that way I can step in and fulfill this mission and purpose that God has given me. And like you, my listener, you're probably feeling something similar, that the business that you've created isn't just a business. This is your heart's mission. This, you've been called to do this by God. And if we don't have our health working with us, it can definitely make things a little bit hard. And so today, Christian is going to come in. We're going to chat back and forth about some of the boundaries, these non-negotiables that we have to have in order to make our health flourish. So that way we can get in and do the work. That way we can create our life's mission and our purpose. And hopefully, those 6, 7 plus figures doing God's work at the same time, right? So without further ado, Christian, thank you so much for being here, for coming and chatting with us and our audience. And first and foremost, like tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into health?
Well, thank you for having me, Aaron. It's great to be here. And yeah, I'm happy to tell you a little of my story. I've been a health coach for 20 years. And so rewind back to the beginning, my 2003, my health was kind of not great. You wouldn't look at me and go, "Oh, that guy's sickly," but what you wouldn't see was that I was sick frequently. I had colds multiple times a year that would last for a couple of weeks. I was wrestling with a degenerative joint condition, in particular my shoulder, and then started creeping into my back. And so that wake up call of how limited my mobility was, how limited my ability to practice my health habits, maybe even snuggling hurt. Like had a difficult time cuddling with my wife. So it became quality of life level. And so I had the foresight to, or I guess the humility, probably is a better word, to find a doctor outside of what I had tried. I'd been to half a dozen medical doctors and they just kind of put you on an anti-inflammatory, or they switch that one out for a different one. Short version, I found a chiropractor who turned my paradigm of health upside down. He turned my paradigm of nutrition upside down and healing, and just taught me so much. I struck oil with that chiropractor, and I don't think I've found his equal since. But that launched me into saying, how many other things do I not know that are this transformative, that have this much ability to take somebody like me who's done everything they can think of and is getting nowhere. And so I just became a kid in a candy store studying the alternative health world, because all I really knew was find symptom, go to doctor. And it was experience poor health. You just find somebody with MD after their name and they'll tell you what to do. I finally realized that wasn't the story, or wasn't the path to wellness. So I studied broadly. Short version, we had brick and mortar locations for 9 years. We had chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, nutritionists, personal trainers, group fitness. We integrated that in one facility for 9 years. And then in 2017, we switched to the virtual world and have been coaching people. We really, over the years, we just kept solving the next problem we saw. First, it was nutrition, and then it was fitness, and then it was the mind and emotional part. And it became, geez, we're now we're turning into relationship coaches, and now we're stuck dealing with trauma. And there's so many aspects that we just called our business True Whole Human. We really coach the whole person, and that led to the COVID era birth, a real big reminder or need to focus on the problem of toxicity and injury that comes from toxicity. And that instance, that has redirected me back to focusing on root causes from there's not a bigger one we could argue that's the reason we're sick, and that's why we're highly toxic as a population, as evidenced by our waistlines, and 6 out of 10 of us have a chronic health condition. So that's really what I do today, and that's a very fast version of 20 years, but there you have it.
That's okay. I get it. I actually get it. Like, when you're like, you have to package 20 years of experience in like one, maybe two, three sentences,
Yeah,
right?
it's hard to do.
It
Yeah.
is it is really hard. I think you mastered that pretty well.
Oh,
No.
thanks. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can give you an even shorter version. It would be I basically help people turn around chronic health conditions in 3 steps, and I'm basically a root cause detective. And so that's my secret sauce is you give me anybody that's sick, and in typically 3 steps I can get them well.
Awesome. That's amazing. And and I love that. I love that. And this is kind of like the stuff we're talking about. And I've decided like with this podcast, and we were talking about this a little bit too, just like talking about more of like the boundary side of things. And you cannot even
Hmm.
say like those 3 steps
Hmm.
could possibly transmute into boundaries, right?
Certainly would.
Like
Yeah.
these are things that are just non-negotiable. You're not going to break them.
Hmm.
Um, because this is the way I talk about boundaries. A lot of people are like, hey, there's the distance you put between you and another person. They're toxic. We're
Hmm.
using a lot of the same language,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And you're even talking like we got into relationship coaching because there's toxicity there.
Hmm.
Like like I think a lot of times we think about what's happening in our world as just a toxic environment,
Hmm.
right? Which is why I think like the paradigm of boundaries is a toxic one, if that makes sense. Like we want to keep this distance between ourselves and toxicity. But in truth, a boundary is how you choose to show up. It's how you choose to be. It's who you choose to to show up as, right? It is it is literally about not crossing yourself. And if you understand boundaries that way, you can literally build an unbreakable boundary. And so when we're talking about health in this term,
Hmm.
right, that these are just decisions that we're not going to cross. What are those decisions?
Oh, but there can be so many, and it's I'm better when I have an individual case in front of me. But let me put some principles on the table because they can always lead to the best tactics. If we are operating from the wrong principles, we're going to be way off course, chasing our tail, or as the medical world does, chasing symptoms and wondering why we don't get well. So, some principles that help me when it comes to, we'll stay in the biology lane first. We kind of call them the biological laws of physics. There's basic things that all of us have to do that we're bound by, and we can't cheat them. So are you drinking water? Are you sleeping? Are you moving? Are you managing stress? Do you have any play in your life? Do you have any relationships in your life that are fruitful and life-giving? And you can't out exercise a bad diet. You can't drink more water to make up for not sleeping. You can't have a positive thought to make up for any number of things. Like there are certain habits we have to practice, and we either suffer the consequence of not practicing them or we reap the benefits of practicing them. And when it comes to health, they're more a matter of the compound effect of something that's slowly eroding our health or something that's slowly building our health or sustaining our health. And any of us can hit a tipping point where there's enough negative factors that have come together that can produce oh my gosh, my body's forcing me to finally give it the attention and stop it with the neglect. And there are paths out of that are the compound effect of honoring the biological laws of physics and working toward building enough habits where you hit this synergistic tipping point of math that's like compounding on each other, where a lot of good habits lead you to sustainable vitality. And so for one person to have a boundary, it may be that they got to finally start drinking water. I'm not going to let myself have X until I drink water. a big one for me is
Mm,
bedtime. It's protecting the 8 hours of sleep. There's a great book by Greg McEwen called Essentialism, where he talks about that the motto is protect the asset, and the asset is your body. And if it does not have any protection, your body will eventually. There was a great story of a guy who thought he was invincible and didn't need to sleep because I'll do that when I'm dead, and that's for weak people who can't hang. And I'm going to produce. And the short version is he had to take a 6 months off of work in order to heal enough to even be functional. And when you run bad habits to their logical endpoint, they do catch up to you. And it's typically about age
mhm.
35, you start to realize you're not invincible. And I'm going to have to operate from better sustainable principles if I am going to pursue health. And so that's one frame. Another would be that has helped me is this idea of a minimum effective dose of a particular set of health habits. So there's a minimum effective dose, you could say, to maintain a relationship with your spouse or your kids. There's a minimum effective dose of keeping your eye on your finances so that you're not in the giant sinkhole of financial debt or about to live under a bridge. There's health debt that can accumulate. But there are also basic habits that will keep us from being wildly off course or have that "how did I get here" moment. And so I can talk about all three of those, but when it comes to health, it really does come back to those. It's sometimes it's counterproductive to say, like, what's the least I have to do to get some benefit so I can feel better? And sometimes it's better to say, how many positive health habits can I stack without getting to that point of um, this is just too much and I can't do it all. And so part of what I do as a coach is creating a methodical plans for a person's health. Where's your health situation? How much can you afford to spend? And what's your lifestyle? One of those factors is, are you time poor? Are you time rich? Like, how much time do we have to work with? So there isn't one answer, but there is a great set of principles that can help you piece together a very great health philosophy. And if you don't have to become an Olympian or compete at a high level in order to have great health and optimize the heck out of everything, you can live a great life if you just get the basics down and learn to undo a lot of the habits that have put you in poor health in the first place.
I love that. I love that. There's a couple of things that I really want to point out here that you said, where you're talking about protect the asset,
Hmm.
right? Well, that's totally a boundary principle right
Right.
there, right? Like protecting the asset, you are the asset.
Right.
You are absolutely the asset. And so if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not getting enough emotional rest, mental rest, spiritual rest, physical rest, like we're
Hmm.
talking rest, you need that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Protecting your assets. You're also talking about like your mind, your
Yeah.
your health, your like all of these things. You are the asset. You've got to put in principles of protection around yourself,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
a guiding principle that helped me with that one, because I have this, like most entrepreneurs, this itch to produce and this dangling carrot of I know that right spot is on the horizon if I hustle hard enough. And understanding biologically the importance of sleep, rest, and play. There's three different things. Sleep is
Hmm.
obviously, we know what that is, and it's the only way your body does its deep healing. Rest is like, well, what are you doing that's not work when you're awake? Like, oh, a lot of us stink at even answering that question. And there's
Hmm.
play. Play is its own medicine. It's you get lost in something for the sheer joy it gives you, not because it contributes any greater good to society. But what's happening with sleep, rest, and play is you're not wasting time. You're actually gathering strength so you can be good at what you go back to. That is a
Hmm.
major pillar of protecting the asset. If you do not protect it, because you mentioned emotions, if you are burnt out and at the edge of your margin constantly, you're not showing up in the world for good. It's going to impact your business. You have to protect the
Yeah.
asset and respect that you need sleep, rest, and play in order to be a well-rounded human.
Yes, exactly. And you were talking about like that burnout, and this is interesting because I'm writing a book right now called The Seven Pillars of Living the Interesting Life, right? And we talk about the importance of play as one of those key pillars, and the opposite of play is actually that burnout or that
Mhm.
overwhelm,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
we absolutely do need these things in order to stay in a good, healthy place, right?
hmm,
And the other thing that I love that you're saying here is this is it's a journey, right? If you're not at the destination that you want to be at, well, what road did you take? Like where did the GPS malfunction?
Yeah.
You know, we've got to come back to the real road and not deviate from that
Yeah.
road in order to get to the destination we want to get to, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, and often we don't even know where the fork in the road happened. We just know this is not taking me anywhere good anymore, and I'm accumulating health debt. I'm accumulating financial debt. My family doesn't want to talk to me anymore. I'm estranged from. I feel lonely. Like those are forks in the road, and often it's a simple principle. If I don't like my results, I change my approach. Like I have to think differently about this problem. So for our clients, we often call it a systems level think. Like, what is the operating system of how you're running your life, and audit your time. And that can tell you some information that's helpful because you just see like it's leaking here. But then you have to have a different filter to look at it and say, how do I manage my emotions in this day? Like, how do I manage my energy? That's more
Mm,
key to achievement than time management because you can theoretically have the time, but not the inclination, and you're dead in the water. But if you understand there's a puzzle of I get to manage my energy and my emotions as a proxy for managing my time, how do I put myself on the most important tasks? Well, now I need to be able to answer the question, what's most important? Shoot, I gotta. So, what's a well-lived life? Well, it's to me, it's four things: it's relationships, it's your health,
hmm
it's your finances, and it's your worldview. If you
hmm
don't have some investment in those four things, I promise you, you will never feel successful. You might appear successful to others, but you won't feel that way because there's not enough of your emotional, energetic, financial capital spent in those four things, and you can't reap a return without investment. So that those are some of the principles that help me create questions that lead the client to solve their own problem. They just needed to see a better operating system, a better systems level think on their own life, let their values bubble to the surface, and they're okay with like, I don't even know what my purpose is. Like, I guess that might be part of why I feel like I'm floundering or rudderless here. And
Yeah.
once you can see that, wait a minute, I do want to do this and I feel better when I do that, and I'm kind of lonely or I feel like I'm insignificant or nobody ever validates me or this is unfair. I don't feel like I belong. Like once those major human longings have some context of this is what's actually driving my behavior, you can work at that boundary of protecting the asset any number of ways. But so much of my work is spent in the realm of trying to understand one, how does the body heal? But two, what is the human condition? And the more I
Mm.
understand that and what drives our behavior and what people, the subtext of what people really want and where they feel like they're not able to get any traction, I'm two or three questions away from gold usually. It's just helping them get to the point kindly where they're ready to face the implications of the question. And then to your point, now the boundaries come back in the picture.
Yep,
Okay, well, to
exactly.
do it, you're going to have to trade off something else in order to get there. You got time, money, energy, and emotion are the four currencies you can spend. So which
Yep.
of those four are you willing to spend on this? How much? And let's work with what's in your budget and let's spend it strategically. Let's spend it methodically. Let's spend it with realistic
Intentionally.
expectation.
Yes.
That's how
Yes.
you get somewhere.
Yes. Yes. And we're talking intention, right?
Yeah.
And that you're absolutely right. I say this too. Like we communicate in main ways. Our words are just such a small piece,
Right.
right? But we also communicate major with our expression, our actions, and our energy, right? We
With tone and
communicate
body
in these ways.
language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Interesting body language, right?
Right.
We're talking about this.
Yeah.
And how we choose to use the manifestation of that, right? This is where we're getting into the how we spend it,
Yeah.
right? So our communication is how we bring things in. Now we're talking about how we spend it. And you're right, there is so many different commodities out there. Money is just one way we
Hmm.
spend,
Yeah.
right? Time, talents, focus, energy. Like there's a lot of different ways that we do spend these things. And so I love that you're saying that we really need to take a look at what we're spending, how, and
Hmm.
is it intentional?
Right. And or do I have a reasoned defense for the idea this is leading me somewhere good? When it
Mm,
comes to health neglect, yeah, I caffeinate in the morning, and if I think of eating or having some water or getting out of my chair or getting sunlight, yeah, maybe like if I can't argue that the set of habits I have are going to lead to long-term health, that's a reason to step back and have a good think. you apply the same thing to your business. Like, am I just chasing my
Hmm.
tail doing the stuff that I don't have any evidence this is income producing activity? Like, should I focus on something else? One of my secret sauce, if you want to go boundaries and keystone habits, one thing that helps me tremendously is a dedicated think block reserved to me, it's Friday afternoon at minimum 2 hours. The longer I have to think, where I don't have to produce, the better the rest of my week is because I retroactively look at what happened. What did I learn from that? Am I on track? Should I even be working on this anymore? And then I can take that and forecast into the next week. Like, what's realistic to get done in the upcoming week? Which are the most important things? And inevitably, family's got to be on there. My health has, I can't just never do that. I do have to sleep. And so I start to have much more measured realism of what can get done, which instantly puts the trade offs right in your face and says, you can't maximize all these things. So which ones are you
Yeah.
going to pick? And it's freeing after you digest. I can't have it all and do it all at the same time. No, you can't. You can have it all, just not all at once.
Hmm.
So let's move a area of life forward while we maintain the other ones. And then if you're happy with that, then let's switch and let's move something else forward. But until you have a self-respecting boundary that says I know these set of habits will move me forward if I practice the compound effect of them. Otherwise, you're just creating a massive amount of financial, emotional, or relational debt or health
Hmm.
debt that's going to bite you in the butt significantly in the future.
Yep.
So anyway, that's one of the puzzles or I help people solve.
I love that. And you're right. Like, let's take a look at the result,
Yeah.
right? Let's really take a look at the result you're getting versus the result you want, right?
Yeah.
And like, how do we move forward more closer towards the result that we actually want? And that works in your relationships, that
Hmm.
works in your business, that works in your health, that works in your spirituality, because we're talking about a whole person. And this
Hmm.
is why growth really, I think, in a lot of ways needs to be kind of like our general focus, right? We can get really specific in that and saying like, okay, I want to lose this much weight, or I want to have like say a 50% increase in energy. Like, what does that look like, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do I actually want? And what are the habits that get me there? And when we're talking about habits, we're talking about the non-negotiables. Again, like coming right back to the beginning of this conversation,
Hmm.
right? What are those non-negotiables that get us to where we want to be? So you had mentioned that there were three things that you talk about, and we probably have covered them, but let's get like really specific on what those three things are.
Yeah. Okay. So our secret sauce, if we have, to me, that I've never found a more logical frame for taking someone with health debt and getting them to a different plateau or a different stage of life where they have vitality. So the framing concept behind our method is that the biggest problem we deal with related to our health is a toxicity problem. And so we define toxicity. There's microbial toxicity, there's chemical, there's emotional, and that essentially is why our health statistics are so appalling. There is not a better explanation. Or you could I recently walked down the hall of a old hotel in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, and nobody's fat. You hit the 80s, and there's this inflection point where our waistlines just balloon. We've been poisoning
Mm,
ourselves for decades, and our bodies bear the evidence of it, such that 6 out of 10 have at least one chronic health condition. Appalling. So toxicity is the major problem. So what that says then, that's where our method comes in, is the first thing we have to do is we have got to unburden the body from the toxicity problem. Or a better way to say it is you cannot dry off while you're in the shower. Translated, you can't heal while you're still poisoning yourself. You can't
yeah,
heal while you are still full of poisons. That is a root cause issue. And poisons can also be thoughts and traumas and mental toxins
yeah.
and self pity and inadequacy and unworthiness and so on. But you cannot heal your physical body until you turn off the shower. But what the medical system does is it just treats all the hundreds or thousands of symptoms of that problem. So the
Mm,
first thing we have to do is cut off the source of the toxicity. The second thing we do have to do is purify. So we've unburdened. We have to purify the toxicity that's already there. And
mm,
if you're overweight, in pain, you have achy joints, pick any symptom you want. That is your body's feedback that you have a toxicity problem. And that stuff will stay stuck in your tissues unless the exits are open. unless the body knows it's safe to let them out because it can't let the blood get dirty or it will poison you to death. So it has to have an efficient system to get that out. So we have to figure out, how do we purify the body? That's the lane of these three things I'm talking about. That's the one where people get the most freaked out, because how do I detox these things without hurting myself? That is a good question. So there's unburden, there's purify, and the third one is nourish. So if you have
Mm,
a clean but dilapidated house, you still have to refurbish it. You can sweep out the cobwebs and the rat poop and the trash and get rid of that, but you still have to refurbish. You have to deal with the termite rot of what's in the body. You have to let the system heal itself. And that's nourishment. And we expand our definition of nourishment beyond food. It's water, it's hope, it's sleep, it's movement, it's nature, it's relationships. That's nourishing to the body.
mm.
The purify lane doesn't do anything to nourish you, it just cleans you out. And people often mistake purification for nourishment or for healing, and they wonder why they're not getting anywhere. Another way I could say it is, we often skip lanes. We skip this unburden and purify. We go straight to nourish, or we go straight to optimize and biohack and red light and methylene blue and electrical current therapy and all these specialists with one hammer. And we wonder why we're not well, because nobody's talking about the real problem. We're toxic and we're malnourished. And until we fix those two things, you're chasing your tail with symptoms where you could actually be getting at health. Clean out what's bogging your system down and nourish it back to health. It's really that simple. But you don't have to conflate simple with easy. There's work to do. It will require something of you to get well. And we're just, it's Tuesday or whatever day it is. Like today, somebody blew me away that something we taught her got rid of frostbite pain she had for years. She finally can feel her toe again. Like, that wasn't even on my radar of something that could get well. But sure enough,
Right.
she's got feeling back in a toe that's been more or less dead for years. Because all we did was clean the body out. It knows where the problems are and what can fix, but that was so far down the priority list of things to fix that it was never going to get there unless the body was clean enough for long enough. It was like, hey, we got time. Let's fix the toe. So the body is the one doing the healing. And that's what's so beautiful about it. We just basically clear the path for that process and get out of its way for long enough. That's really all we're doing. The unburden, purify, nourish. Those are the three steps.
I love that. I love that because, I'm sitting here thinking as you're talking that what is the natural thing that we do? And that is attack the body back,
Yeah, right. Stupid.
right? Like
Makes no sense.
our body is just simply trying to talk to us. It's just trying to tell us that something's going on. And
Right.
if we listen to it and we take those three steps, it totally makes sense why, it would work.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. I love that. I love that.
Thank you. I'm glad that resonated. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
totally did.
it
Totally
can't get
did.
simpler, really.
Well, and like I said, I'm sitting here like, huh, okay, now I need to think about like how do I unburden? How do I purify? How do I nourish? Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking about those things. And
Yeah.
I love that clarification because the other thing too, I have noticed when, doing like my own work, and like I said, I'm not an expert in the health field at all.
Hmm.
I know enough,
Hmm.
but uh everything that I did, to heal like years and years of trauma, years and years of toxicity in my mental and emotional and spiritual state, it was always simplify. Now, that doesn't mean, like you were saying, that doesn't mean that we don't have to get in and do some work. No, I did some serious work. Some of it was the hardest stuff I've ever done in my
Oh, I
life,
bet. Yeah.
right?
I believe you.
Yeah, yeah. But it was so worth it. And the thing is you get to know yourself when you start doing that type of work,
Hmm.
right? And when we really clear out the clutter and the cobwebs and we just simplify, man, there's gold there.
It
You know what I
is.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to eat the whole elephant in one bite. We have a long list of tools and we don't deploy all of them on every person. We just figure out
Yeah.
where are you burdened? Of all the things we could start with purification, typically we're going to start in the microbial level to rebalance the gut and ecology, and then we'll go after chemicals and metals. But it's not that complicated. We'll teach you how to fast. We'll teach you how to use castor oil, detox baths, enemas, whatever. Like, we will get this crap out of you so you can heal. And we'll make sure you understand real nutrition, not the. That's probably the most confusing world in anything that has the word science behind it. It's that and hormones. So much conflicting information on that, and we just like let the body figure that out. We'll just clean it out and nourish it,
Yeah.
and it heals.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Okay. How do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about how to create their health and their wellness? So that way they can like use these same like seriously, these are the same principles
Right.
that we need to use to create anything that we say we want, right?
Correct.
You could even like come back down and say like, well, say you want to get 6 figures, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, how's about unburden? Let's purify and
Right.
nourish, right?
It's like, well, this actually is applicable in a lot of ways. Right. Same
It
thing with your
really,
relationships,
it
right?
really, oh my gosh, yes, 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 so much so. So,
Yeah.
how do people find you if they want to work with you?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, you can check out our website. It's called healingunited.today. So we're Healing United is a PMA. We use .today because we wanted a sense of urgency behind this. Let's get on with it already. You don't need to go through all sorts of other things. Healingunited.today. You can find a free 45-minute coaching call in there if you want. But I've also got a series I'm doing, it's Why You Don't Heal Like You Used to, or you can find my Reverse Chronic Disease in 3 Steps little presentation that I've done as well. Those are the best ways to get familiar with what we do. That will blow people's mind at how it's a longer version of what I just laid out for you.
Hmm.
And so if anybody wants to reach out, they can find us at the website, book a consultation. If you want to just email me, you can email Christian@truewholehuman.com. That's our personal coaching business. We also have an Instagram page, and we have our own app. So Healing United PMA app you can find in the App Store.
Fabulous. Go check out Christian Elliot. He'll be back again, you guys, for sure. We've got some more conversations totally to take on with Christian here. But go check him out, you guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Boundary Boss Babes. I'm super excited that you tuned in with me today. Make sure you tune in again next week as we chat about more Boundary Boss Babe topics. We're going to get into so many other things about how to set boundaries with your business, how to set boundaries with your relationships, so you can truly have the time, the money, and the flexibility that you are seeking. So tune in next week. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. Let your other Boss Babe friends know about it. And also, if you've got any questions, make sure you submit them into the podcast by clicking on the Send Us a Text message at the bottom of the podcast description. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. See you later, Boss Babes.